1019. I looked at the 10 codes the other day, and the 10 codes are going to get boring. The 10 codes, when we started, they were kind of exciting, or they seemed to fit. Like one of them was civil disturbance and stuff like that. Now the 10 codes are going to get boring. Like 1019 means return to blank. 1020 means your location. That's where what's your 20 comes from. Have you ever heard that? Mm-hmm. What's your 20, good buddy? Bragger, what's your 20? That comes from the 10 codes, and that means your location. 1021 is call blank by phone. 1022 is disregard. So yeah, it's not as cool as 1015 civil disturbance, 1016 domestic problem. It's not as cool. And I remember when I was with a cop and we did the Ohio Revised Code, or the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association codes and signals. Of course, they have a code and signal for everything, like plane crash, train crash, stuff like that. But you can imagine as a patrolman how often you use the plane crash code. Not very often. Or train crash code. I never did. I don't think the 20 years or so that I was a cop, I ever grabbed the radio and called in a train crash or was dispatched to a train crash, fortunately.
I just looked up the codes, and according to this article, there are 99 of them. How do you remember them all?
Well, you use them a lot. The ones that you use a lot. Now, every cruiser I ever had a laminated codes copy on the visor. So like if you had to use one that was way off the wall, like I said, like airplane crash or something, or things like escape, escape prisoner or escape, or a car chase or prison, all that stuff you use all the time. So you just rattle it off, bing, 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 bing. But like bomb threat, things like that you don't ever use. And you're like, what? You're like real quick checking your thing. Oh, that's what you mean.
Okay. And they don't. Well, I don't know if maybe they listed them by alphabetical order or something.
No,
because bomb
yet.
threat. I just looked at it and it's number 89. So 1089 is bomb threat. You'd be like, okay, 89 things later. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. Well, and of course, coming out of the Marine Corps, I used military phonetic. I mean, I had the military phonetic alphabet in my brain, but the police phonetic alphabet is not the same. It's completely different. So when you're calling it a plate number, it's not Alpha Bravo Charlie. It's Adam Boy Charles. I guess Charles and Charlie. But so every once in a while, like especially when I first became a cop, I would, I'd be rattling off a plate number or something, and my brain would just throw in the military, like Quebec Romeo or Tango or whatever. And, a smart-ass dispatcher would come back and say, do you mean Tom? Like I'd say Tango or something like that. Do you mean Tom? I mean the letter fucking T. You know what I meant.
M as in Mancy.
As in Mancy. That's right.
Oh, yeah, I should have. M as in Mancy.
Oh, yeah. So, did I just say that?
Yeah, you did.
So, that reminds me of Super Troopers, when every time they gave a plate, they would just create a brand new phonetic alphabet.
That's funny.
D as in dingo. Dingo, Adam.
There was also the Reno 911 thing. Remember with the vanity plates?
Oh, yeah. They're reading it back and they're trying to figure out what it is. Yeah. And then, bam! They ran it, smash into the back of the car. Because they get excited because they figured it out. They're like, oh, cat lady. I get it. Bam! Oh, man. I miss that show.
Didn't they try to come back with a new season recently? Like
yeah, they tried to do a reboot, and it was kind of. Yeah,
they get all the same actors back. That's the important question.
Yeah, the first couple seasons, like season 1 and 2 of Reno 911, were just hilarious. They were just hilarious. But anyway, we're not here to talk about 10 codes and Reno 911 and old TV shows. We're here to talk about what we're going to talk about. We're live on the various things. We're on Discord and Facebook and what have you. So if you guys have a question, throw it into the notes, and the boys will monitor it, and we'll see what's what. Deep breath. I don't want to talk about this crap, but we have to talk about this crap. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen. Yep, go ahead, Zach, and play the music, please and thank you.
Stand by for education, enlightenment, enjoyment, and entertainment.
He's not here to talk about your feelings. He's not here to say what you want to hear. He's here to say what needs to be said.
Ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages, please welcome your host, the pimp hand of America, Professor Paul Markle.
Boom. You guys who are cops or were cops, you'll appreciate this. I remember when I was in, and there was this big debate over whether to get rid of codes and signals and use plain talk. Plain talk just means you grab the microphone and you say, "Hey man, this is me, and I'm over here with Jim, and I got a car stop, and an escaped prisoner, and and the thought process was, well, we just need to go to plain talk, because in the event of an emergency, you should cut out the codes and signals so that everybody knows exactly what you're saying in a crisis, right? And my thought process at the time was, hello, duh.
Hello and or
hello. If somebody's like, if you're shot and you're laying on the ground, you're not going to like sit there and think, what's the 10 code for being shot? You're going to grab the radio and say, I'm shot, send an ambulance. They're like, oh,
sorry, we can't do that. Can you give us the 10 code?
Can you give us the proper 10 code for officer has been shot? The whole reason you use codes and signals is because you're talking all the time, but you're not the only one on the channel. There's lots of people that are using the same channel. So you don't want Officer Banat's Schmuckatelli like reading paragraphs of Shakespeare into the frickin' radio when they can just say, 855, 8500, I'll be 68 or whatever, or 69. Or 68, I owe you one. But the point is, the brevity codes are there for a reason. Because they don't need, I don't need you to give me a whole paragraph when you can just give me one sentence, just bing, bang, and I'm like, roger that. Moving on with our lives, right? Think about it. Like when you're doing a traffic stop, you don't want to say, dispatch, this is Officer Markle. I'm going to be initiating a traffic stop at blah, 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 blah. No, you just say 68 at Jackson Street.
Thank you. And that's not under stress. So
yeah, you're not under stress. So you're just like, if like I said, if people are shooting at me, I'm just going to say people are shooting at me, or if I'm on fire or whatever. I mean, I just thought that was ridiculous. It's like,
why doth thou hate Shakespeare?
Yeah, it's like, why is it so obvious to me? You're like, well, we need to use plain talk. And I'll tell you what, Jarrad, and this is a lesson to you guys out there listening. Do you know where that thought process comes from? The plain talk?
Intellectual laziness.
Yes. It's the same reason that Army recruits don't throw grenades anymore. Because it's hard. And that we can't make them do land nav because they're not smart enough to figure it out. So what we'll do is, rather than make them smarter, we'll just dumb it down. It's the same thought process. Like, well, I mean, wouldn't it be easier if we didn't make people memorize stuff?
So real quick, can I just say something? When this started and you said go over to plane talk, I thought you meant like go over to like plane signals, like flying planes. And I was like, do they have like their own whole like code vernacular? And how would that translate over?
Oh yeah, pilots do. Pilots have radio talk.
Yeah, but I was like, how would that translate over?
No,
I was very
plane
confused.
like as in generic. Yeah, plane talk.
Plane talk.
You mean like what pilots do?
Yeah.
So the pilots in the audience are like, oh, Mr. Cotter, I know what plane talk is.
Did we play the opening?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We're past that part.
I couldn't remember if we broke between the two 10 code talks.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
All right, so you freaks want to talk about what happened on Wednesday? Do you? Okay. This is hurting my brain. All right, so aside from all the other stuff that we already know, here's the hypocrisy from the American media is literally off the charts. This morning when I was prepping the show, I saw a news article from somewhere. I don't know. It was probably one of those ones that pops up on your phone as breaking news or whatever. And it said, woman killed at Trump riot, far right-wing Trump supporter. Right? That was the headline. So in America today, if 3 million pissed off Americans show up with flags to protest, that's a riot. But if left-wing Democrats, if registered Democrat voters burn down innumerable cities, have you guys lost track of the number of cities that the Democrats have burned down in the last year or the last 4 years? Baltimore, St. Louis, Maryland, Milwaukee, Kenosha, Minneapolis, Seattle, Portland. There's riots in New York. Holy crap. I can't keep track of them. But no, that was when a CNN reporter can stand in front of a burning building and say, some violence, but mostly peaceful. Are you kidding? Am I the only one who's seeing this? So, and I'm just going to go ahead and say this. Number one, the only fatality was caused by the government. Jared, you remember when we got that news story about supposedly a crazy lady tried to ram through a barricade outside of the White House? This is during Obama's reign, and they shot up the car and they killed her and her kid. Remember that? You probably
Vaguely.
don't. Well, Neil McCabe, who was a guest on Mark's show,
Yeah.
on Wednesday I was on with Mark, like as an emergency, real quick thing, jumped in live, and Neil McCabe was there in Washington, and that's when the reports were coming out that a woman was killed, and nobody knew who or why or whatever, just that she was killed, and he said, he goes, well, can we go ahead and be honest with ourselves? The Capitol Police are trigger happy, and after the investigation, see, the initial report was this woman was like a psycho, and she tried to ram through a barricade, and they used deadly force to stop her from killing the president or something. Blah, blah, blah. Well, years later, you go on and you're like, oh, they say, well, turned out she was lost, and she panicked and did a U-turn and didn't stop when they were yelling at her. So they just opened fire and riddled the car with bullets and killed her and her kid. But of course, the initial report was, bad, crazy person. Oh, crazy person. And then, a couple years later, they're like, well, we did an investigation. And she actually wasn't a crazy person or a terrorist. She was lost and she panicked.
That's
They
kind of
shot her to death.
that's one of the things about this is like we're getting tons of questions about like what do you guys think about what's going on? It's like, well, we really have limited information. From this side of the country, we have like what the media says and what we can figure out by our listeners and whatnot sending us stuff. And so that's what we're going to talk about today is like here's what we know, and based upon what we know, here's what we think. And if you guys have any more information on the thing, then send it to us so that we have more information.
You remember the that blonde chick that was the DC chief of police? She was the big anti-gunner. Remember that? We did a bunch of stories about her. She said all kinds of ridiculous stuff. You remember that?
Yeah, was she? What is? I'm confused of where you're going.
Right. This DC, the police. Okay.
Yes.
What I'm establishing here is the Capitol Police have not exactly been shining examples of constitutional. They're not the defenders of the people. The DC police are the same ones that arrested and charged a guy because they found a shotgun shell in his car.
Yeah.
And they charged him with unlawful possession of a firearm and ammunition. It was a dud shell that hadn't gone off, and he like thrown it on the floorboard or something. And they yanked him out, and he ended up spending like $50,000 to try and defend himself against that. DC is not pro-America. The DC cops are not pro-America. And the fact that now they're like, oh, people are like, well, she shouldn't have been there. Was she a deadly force threat? Did you guys all? If you're in my audience, you don't know the big three: ability, opportunity, and intent. Did she display the ability, opportunity, and intent to commit deadly force against this DC cop? We'll never know.
I mean, maybe. Like we've seen a 35-second video where the extent of the video, I think Zach, no, he doesn't have it, but I think the extent of the video is that there's cops on the other side of the door. The door is barricaded with chairs. Mm-hmm. There is a window in the door broken, and the cops are pointing guns at the people on the other side of the door. Mm-hmm. And this chick steps up into what used to be the window of the door, and she was trying to force her way into that area that has been barricaded, and there are cops on the other side pointing guns. Mm-hmm. And when she does that, she appears to be unarmed, and when she does that, the cop shoots her. And she stops, and nobody else goes through the window. So there could be arguments based upon that video. There could be arguments on both sides of the aisle. Oh, well, she was unarmed. Maybe she was. We don't know. And then there's the other side. It's like, well, the cop shot her. She died. Nobody else came through because the cop did that, I assume. Then nobody else wanted to get shot, so they stopped what they were doing. They stopped trying to intrude. And one of the questions that I got from somebody was, well, would this be similar to a breaking and entering type thing? And if so, what would we do in our position in our own home? Would we let that person come into our home? Would we shoot them and try to stop them? What would be done there?
Well, question. How did all those other people get into the building? So they killed her, but they didn't kill Buffalo Man or the guy with the funky tattoo on the back of his hand or the woman standing up at the thing with her fist in the air. The
dude with the funky tattoo, is that the Pelosi chair guy?
No, it's a different guy.
It's a separate guy. Okay.
Yeah, it's the bearded guy. So, all right. First of all, there's actually a breaking news story. The Capitol Police chief has resigned. The chief of the DC Police has resigned. So he's going to fall on his sword. failure of leadership, yada yada yada. But let's go ahead and get back to here's what we know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because you had brought up something about the like the BLM Antifa riots, and like the media, they called this thing a riot.
They're using the word riot. They would never, for a year, left-wing Soros-paid crap bags have been burning down American cities, and the media won't use the word riot. Protesters,
Peaceful protests.
people throwing. There's video of people throwing Molotov cocktails into a car lot, and CNN labels them protesters. They refuse to use the word riot. And, do you recall the censorship? If you used the word riot, what happened? Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, if you used the word riot, they pulled your post down. Does everyone remember this?
It was too long ago. It
was like 3
years,
4 months ago.
Years.
If we describe the people in Minneapolis, in Portland, in Seattle, in Wisconsin, if we refer to them as rioters, we violated community standards and had our posts pulled down. So somebody who decides that they're angry and they're going to burn down the Rite Aid or whatever, or people running just recently, in the last month, going through residential neighborhoods, chucking rocks through people's windows, those are protesters.
So one of the things that we know is that, based upon media reports, this January 6th event was considered a riot based upon the media reports.
Yeah, that's
and
riot. Shameful riot.
And the BLM and Antifa events of just a couple months ago, not that long ago, were labeled peaceful protests.
They're protests.
So why would that be? I don't understand it.
Well, you do understand it.
I mean, I do understand it, but why would that be? It's just a question that I posed to you guys.
You guys, this is I cannot wrap my mind around adult humans in America who can just ignore this or justify it or just pretend it's not happening. Because there are people that coworkers, relatives that are like, well, we just need to get the new president in and get into rebuilding and unity and put this all behind us. And that's when you say, whoa, stop. That's like saying, well, yeah.
We're just going to ignore it and hope it goes away.
Yeah, this person that's like someone who's accused of rape. Saying, okay, maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. I'm not even going to debate that, but it's over. The rape already occurred. There's no point in bringing it up again. I mean, what does that help? It doesn't help anybody to keep bringing up this rape that happened. Did you see you know who Craig Sawyer is? Craig Sawman Sawyer?
Yeah.
Anyway, he posted a thing. It was perfect about a week ago. He goes, issuing stimulus checks in the middle of an organized coup is like a rapist pausing to give you a Tic Tac.
Wow.
It's like I couldn't say that any better. Dude, you nailed that one. Laser beam, 100% right there. It's insane. So now we're being lectured by Pelosi and Schumer how Wednesday was a stain on our democracy.
Whoa.
Are you kidding me?
And that's there. I want to get to something that's kind of related to that. I watched when they reconvened, I watched C-SPAN to watch the live reconvening of the thing.
Okay.
And it was, it made me angry. And I'll tell you why in a second. Well, once we get through the list of stuff that we know now. So the first thing that we know is that the media called the January 6th event a riot, and when there was nothing on fire, blah blah blah, whatever, and compared to the BLM Antifa events in multiple cities across the United States, those were labeled peaceful protests. We have a video of the rally that's from a friend of ours, and I opened the video. He sent it to me, and I opened it, and I said, "Wow, that is a lot of people." Did I say a video of the riot? I meant rally.
The rally? No, I think
Yeah.
so. But anyway,
I might have. I'm just reading the notes here, and I don't know which one I said, but he sent us a video of the rally that happened, and it was very close to the Trump speech is when this video was taken. And I'm like, man, that's a lot of people. And so, Zach, if you've got that video, go ahead and play it for me, please.
please and thank you. Thank you and please.
So that's, yeah, I don't know why there's no audio, but so that's all of the people that were there. There might have been more, I don't know, but that's a lot of freaking people. And so my question is, and so now we know that there were a lot of people there. And my question is that why, if the Trump supporters that were there at the rally were the ones that occupied the building, that breached the building and occupied it, why were there not more people in that building?
Yeah, there was millions of people in DC.
Yeah, that was a lot.
So,
So if those people that were there at that rally were the ones that breached this building and decided to occupy the offices of Pelosi and whoever else
for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, then
Just
why?
Taken.
Yeah, long enough to get pictures taken. Why were there not more people in there? And also, what would the purpose of that be? Usually when people when they decide to do something, there's a purpose behind that thing that they're doing. What benefit would the people that were at that rally receive from occupying the Capitol building?
For a few minutes.
For 15 minutes.
For 15 minutes. So someone pointed out immediately, they said, as a military strategy, you generally don't take over a building and then surrender it 15 minutes later.
And then give it up. Yeah. I got it. Here you go.
In our country's past, this is where Schumer and Pelosi assume that Americans are all morons and have no understanding. There have been numerous protests and demonstrations and so forth where students for Democrat Society or students for a Free Society or whatever have taken over college campuses, have taken over buildings, have taken over public buildings and occupied them for like days. This from a serious standpoint, if we look at this if we kind of back up and say, okay, from a tactical, from a strategic standpoint, or compared to other actions that just went on in 2020, what happened in the Capitol building on Wednesday is a tempest in a teacup. Really. I mean, you had what, $100 million in damage done in 2 days in Minneapolis? At least $100 million worth of damage. And, well, that was a protest. And don't forget that Biden and Pelosi and Harris and Schumer, all of the usual suspects, while those cities were burning, were on fire, went out and scolded us about how we need to examine ourselves to figure out why this happened. We need to have a discussion about why people are so angry. And this is justified. These protests are justified because we as a country have failed. We failed these people. And we need reform. Jarrad and my entire audience, how many times when our cities were on fire did Democrats run to microphones and tell us that this shows how we need reform in our government? We need to reform our government because it's inherently flawed. Excuse me? So when 3 million people show up with flags and chanting and signs and stuff in D.C., does Schumer go out and say, this demonstration shows that we need reform in our government? We need to change. These people are angry, and it's justified, and we need to make changes. No, because it didn't benefit them. Instead, they use this as a photo op to try and shame us into submission. This was all right, you don't take over a building for 15 minutes and then leave. They were there long enough to get their pictures taken, to get some video. Here's what I'm going to tell you guys. We're played again. Are you tired? Is anybody else in America tired of that? Is anyone else in America tired of the Democrats playing us? I know I am. I'm a little bit tired of it. Now, when a police officer kills a felon who's in the middle of committing a felony,
Yeah.
right? A police officer in Minneapolis or Wisconsin or whatever shoots a felon who's in the middle of committing a violent crime. We're told that, well, we're just going to, the city's going to burn because it's systematic racism, right? If Trump supporters are as bad and shameful and evil and violent and they need to be cleansed, have you seen that? That's the latest thing, Jarrad. The ABC political director tweeted out that in 13 days Trump will no longer be president, but it's going to. I'll give you the exact quote. So why didn't 3 million Trump supporters set D.C. on fire when the Capitol Police murdered that lady? We're horrible and evil and out of control, right? Seems like pretty yeah, here we go. Rick Klein, the political director for ABC News. Okay, so this guy's not just like some living in his basement hack. He works for ABC News. Tweeted out, Trump will be an ex-president in 13 days. The fact is that getting rid of Trump is the easy part. Cleansing the movement he commands is going to be something else. Cleansing the movement. So just so you know, if you are a Trump supporter, according to the political director from ABC News, you need to be cleansed. The country needs to be cleansed of you. Yep. Now, of course, he took heat for that and he pulled it down, but thank God for the internet because it's too late. There are news stories about this. There's stories about it if you want to look it up. But ladies and gentlemen, and here's the other thing that I have to ask you guys, and then we're going to move on. Why, in the name of all that is holy, on January 6th, 2021, are we supposed to all of a sudden believe what we're being told by CNN and ABC and et al.? Fill in the blank. We know, we've demonstrated. I've come to this microphone so like ad nauseum and demonstrated and pointed out media lies and obfuscation and just flat out propaganda. Big government, pro-Democrat propaganda on the part of the mainstream media. We know this. We did an entire show where we demonstrated point after point, fact after fact after fact after fact, where we're being lied to by the media. And all of a sudden, your aunt or your uncle or your neighbor or whatever is crazy up in arms because they just watched the news and all these Trump supporters are out of control and are a threat to our democracy. What changed? Why should I believe anything that comes out of the mainstream news media? Someone explain that to me, why they're believable today. So they've been lying to us for years, but now, now we can believe them. Really? Doesn't it seem all too convenient to you guys that the news media was fed this pseudo riot? The people went in, took over the building for 15 minutes, and then allowed themselves to be shoot out the back door. Like I said, they were in there long enough for a photo op. Does that seem like a riot to you? Is that the definition of a riot? You answer for yourself. Answer.
We've had a question about the video of Capitol Police moving the barriers instead of holding back the people that are trying to enter the building. Zach, do you have that video real quick?
I do, yeah.
Okay, well, cue it up and then let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready right now.
Okay, go ahead and play it.
Oh, there we go. And they just breached the Capitol again.
Okay, I don't know I don't know who filmed that video. I don't know where it came from, but the video shows that there were police that were standing there, and there's two things that could have happened. They either let the people through, or they were fleeing because they were afraid of losing their own lives. It didn't look like they were fleeing. It looked like they just turned around and walked. But one of the things that was asked to me was said is that the building was not breached, the people were let in, and it was based upon this video. Based upon this video, I don't agree with that, because that was not the building being breached. There was
multiple different entrances.
Yeah. And so that was not the building being breached. That was the barriers being breached. The building itself, from what I saw, it actually was breached because people had to bust through windows to get in there. I don't know what happened after those barriers were moved, but that was something that I heard from several of our listeners. It's like, hey, based upon this video, we believe that that they were let into the building. Based upon that video, I can't really say that myself because it didn't show anything about the actual entry of the building. It just showed the barriers being broken through. And then another thing that we know is that there have been pictures shared that show the dude that stole a podium, and also the guy wearing the bull horns earlier this year at BLM or Antifa protests. I obviously didn't take those pictures, so I don't know how authentic they are, but we have seen those floating around the internet. So if that is to be true, then that means that BLM and Antifa protesters entered the Capitol building.
Well, here's what I know. If you share those pictures on Facebook and say that, look what I found, Facebook will they'll cover it up and they'll say it's false. What you should have learned by now is if Facebook is telling you something is false, it's probably true. You remember when I posted that Joe Biden was the first man to walk on the moon?
Yep. It
stayed up for a week. Facebook never fact-checked it. We probably had 50 comments on that. Oh, they never fact-checked it. Ladies and gentlemen, have we not learned right now that the big tech people, that they are going to protect the Democrat Party? If it works for the Democrats in their favor, it stays up. If it doesn't, it comes down. Right? The context thing, the Biden screaming in that auto worker's face, yelling, "I don't work for you." Everyone in America saw that video. We all know it was true. We shared it. Facebook covers it up and says, lacks context. What context are you talking about? It's a fact. Yeah, but it doesn't make them look good, so we're going to cover it up. My basic default now is if Facebook is hiding something, it's probably true and it's probably damaging to the Democrat Party. This is insane. I mean, we're living in a dystopian novel right now, where you have people aligned to lie to the American people. And what's crazy to me, though, Jarrad, is that there are still people in America that are basing their feelings and opinions on what was reported on CNN, on what ABC's nightly news said.
Yeah.
How?
And that's why we're talking about this right now, is to share with you guys what we know. That way you can form your own opinions, because a lot of what's being done is whatever the news media, CNN, ABC, whatever that is being shown, that's what people are they're being fed opinions. They're not creating their own opinions on the events that happened. They're being fed an opinion and they're just regurgitating what they've been told. So with these things, ask your own questions, come up with your own opinion. And like I've got my own opinions, Dad's got his own opinions, Zach has his own opinions. Examine all the different things that are happening and then form your own opinion.
It's dumbfounding to me. I cannot fathom how an adult human who is not mentally incapacitated, like Joe Biden, but like a normal adult human that doesn't have brain damage, could still in this today say, well, I saw this on fill in the blank, ABC, NBC, CBS, whatever, and I'm outraged because of that. Are you kidding? I just can't fathom it. It's beyond my ability to comprehend. The only thing I can come up with is we have a huge percentage of people that are so mentally weak or that are so intellectually dishonest and selfish and self-centered that they'll allow their emotions to create their decisions. Well, I don't like Donald Trump because he says mean things and he's not nice and he says mean tweets. And so I believe everything CNN tells me about him. What? How far into this are we, guys?
We are currently 43 minutes.
Holy crap. I just got to say one more thing because I told people I talked about it earlier. The reconvening videos. What made me so angry is that we've seen, well, in this specific instance on C-SPAN, I was watching the speeches, the opening speeches when they came back, and almost every single, actually, it might have been every single Democrat, is now purporting that they support and defend the Constitution of the United States and that we need to all come together and to make sure that this constitutional process continues. Like, well, what happened like a few months ago when you just completely crapped upon the Constitution? You didn't care. You usually don't care unless it affects you.
They always don't care. So the Constitution allows governors to lock people in their homes. The Constitution allows governors to arbitrarily pick and choose which businesses can be open and which can be closed.
But they were angry that the people that busted into the Capitol building were trying to interrupt the constitutional process. And you should be angry about that too, don't you know?
It is insane to me that these criminal monsters would have the gall and the audacity to lecture the country about the Constitution. It's if you're not infuriated by that, I don't even know how to reach you. But nothing has changed. The Democrats still committed the greatest instance of election fraud in the history of our country. That fact hasn't changed. The media is still censoring and silencing any form of dissent from that. Anyone who doesn't agree with the Democrat Party and big government is censored and silenced. We know this. The courts, it's not like we took the evidence to the courts. There was a trial where evidence was presented, and we came all the way out on the other end of a public trial, and they said, okay, after examining all of this evidence, in a public open forum trial, we've decided that there was no wrongdoing. No, instead, they just covered their ears and said, la, 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 la. We're not going to look at that. We're not going to talk about it, because if we do, then Democrats will burn our cities down. What? So nothing has changed, ladies and gentlemen. I saw someone, you guys got to tighten up. Someone's like, well, in 2022, we're going to take it back. What? The state of Georgia, the Democrats in Georgia, for the Senate runoffs, did the exact same fraud and manipulation that they did for the presidential election. Did you watch that, Jarrad? They did the same thing. They stopped counting the votes, and then they came back and they're like, oh, look at this. We found 100,000 votes for Senator Derp. The exact same flat curve spike. The Republicans were winning. All right, DeKalb County and stops counting votes. We come back. Oh, they shot up. 3 o'clock in the morning, they shot up. And look at that. They won by 1%. When Georgia says, oh, we're going to have a runoff, so anybody who wants to vote, you can just request an absentee ballot. Oh, we got 300,000 absentee ballot requests. What are you talking about? If in January of 2021, you haven't come to the realization that absentee mail-in ballot voting is fraud, I don't know what to say to you. And people say, well, in 2022, people are going to be so angry that they're going to fix this. People were angry in November of 2020. People have been angry all year long, and they waited for their opportunity to go and vote. And it didn't matter. Guys, have you guys seen the counties that Biden won? He won a few hundred counties. He supposedly got more popular votes than any president in the history. He won fewer counties than Obama did in 2012. How does that work? In what world is that a reality? They've come out and they're like, oh, well, yeah, some of those counties that we gave to Biden, Trump actually won them, but we don't care. We have video in Georgia of them pulling out suitcases full of phony ballots and running them in the middle of the night. And the courts ignored it. We have instances where we absolutely know that the voting machines changed votes from Trump to Biden. That's not even disputable. Well, that was just one instance, and it's not a big enough deal. All over the country, we know that Pennsylvania, that Wisconsin, that Minnesota, that Michigan, that Georgia, that they allowed them to change voter standards right before this presidential election. In violation of their own state laws. And no one's being held accountable. And people are saying, Well, boy, Americans are going to be so mad in 2022 that they're going to take it all back. How? How is that going to happen? They've been practicing and planning. In 2016, who wrote an article called "Picking Up the Turd: When Are We of Voter Fraud"? In 2016, I wrote an article detailing the instances of fraud. And I said in that article 4 years ago, like, hey, that's great that Trump got elected, but we've got to deal with this voter fraud problem in America. But we didn't. We said, well, everybody's Americans and they all want what's good for the country at the end of the day. We're just different parties, blah, blah, blah. How do we turn back this massive nationwide organized voter fraud scheme? When your vote no longer matters, when the courts turn a blind eye to criminal behavior, when the media deliberately silences and censors any kind of dissent, what do you do? What do you do? You going to get out the vote? I don't know. You guys, we can't ignore it. I mean, you're like, come on, Paul, this is depressing me. Yeah, it's depressing me too. But ignoring it's not going to make it go away. That's what we do. You see that, guys? That's what we do. We vote once every 4 years, and then we ignore it and expect that everything will just work itself out. I haven't thanked my sponsors yet. Jericho, thank you for sponsoring Student of the Gun, for being a family-owned business, for letting us not have ugly guns. If you guys want to support them, I think you should. They support us. Go to DuracoatFirearmFinishes.com and check those guys out. Crossbreed Holsters wants you to be dangerous on demand. If you use the promo code SOTG18 when you shop, you're going to save some money. You're going to get a high-quality holster, belt, mag pouch, chest rig, whatever you want, and you're going to be a happy camper because they make good stuff. Use that promo code. And, of course, our buddies at Brownells. I just got an email yesterday. I was sitting there. I don't know what I was doing, but I saw it pop up on my phone, and there was ammo in stock. I opened it immediately, and half of the ammo.
And it's gone.
And it's gone. Yeah, it's like that. Is it Family Guy? Which one is the South Park? Okay, let me calculate this and put my money in this account, and it's gone. All right, we're going to take your money. We're going to put it right in here. We're going to invest it. And it's gone. There you go. And that's exactly it. But there was some. Now, not all of it, but there was some. So follow those guys. Sign up for the Brownells newsletter and let them know. Let them know that you're paying attention. All right, guys. That's our take on the Capitol building breaching, whatever, the tempest in a teacup, the riot that wasn't. Take that information. Do with it.
You know what platform does? Discord. We've actually got a bunch in there that people were sharing of stuff they found around the internet, and Discord did not remove it. So go join the Student of the Gun Discord server. It's studentofthegun.com/Discord. Get yourself in there and join the conversation.
studentofthegun.com/DISCORD. All right, I'm there. All right, so it's that easy, kids. It's really that easy. Oh, that's it for today. Have a great day, couple days. We'll be back on Wednesday for another program. Another great episode, another Wednesday episode of Student of the Gun. Until then, remember, you're a beginner once.
You're a student for life.
We appreciate your reviews. If you haven't left a review or updated yours recently, head on over to Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcast player to voice your opinion. Don't forget to join us at the Student Lounge, a place for like-minded individuals to learn, connect, and support each other. No chicanery will be tolerated. Remember to check studentofthegun.com daily for new, free content and giveaways. Watch, listen, read, shop, and connect at studentofthegun.com. Are you a social butterfly? Connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for new content each and every day at Student of the Gun. Watch Student of the Gun TV and videos from our trusted partners on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Chromecast, and even AirPlay. Go to studentofthegun.com for direct links, and remember, you're a beginner once, a student for life.
All right. So do we want to roll right into the next episode, or do we want to take a little break?
I want to roll into the bathroom and take a piss.
All right. So, guys, we'll be back in just a minute. I'm going to put the mid-roll bumper.
Will you do me a favor? Can we end this one and start a new one?
Sure, if you want.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, I'll be right back.
Okay, bye, everyone. I guess we'll come back with another episode later in like 5, 10, 20 minutes. All right, bye.